right. What's up, guys? We have episode 15 of the Four Lifters by Lifters podcast, and we have Charly, pronounce your last name? Juong with us today. He's part of Renaissance Periodization. What do you do there?
I'm the director of operations there.
Director of operations? Yep. So you do everything?
Pretty much.
Yeah, you're the utility man. Renaissance Periodization has really blown up over the last couple of years. I think it really started in the CrossFit atmosphere. I remember seeing, a bunch of women in particular who were just super shredded doing CrossFit, and they weren't even, I guess, the greatest athletes, but they looked absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's what really helped blow the brand up. But now you guys are doing bodybuilding, powerlifting. You said Olympic weightlifting as well.
Yep.
So you guys are fully spread out through all things fitness now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So the first time that Charly and I met, he didn't know we met, but he was at a powerlifting meet in Philadelphia, and I think he was, what'd you squat, 760 or something?
Something like that. 771 or something like that.
Yeah, it was a pretty good number. I mean, everybody stopped to watch him. And you were doing this crazy thing when you were warming up, getting ready for the meet, when you were sniffing the nose.
Crying?
Fork. Yeah,
that's what it was.
You were crying. I think you were spitting. And
both.
the first time you did, I'm like, dude, I think this guy just spit on me. And then I looked at the board to see what you were squatting, and I was like, you know what, it's okay. He's squatting enough weight. We'll allow it. And that was a really good meet. There was actually some good lifters there.
Yeah, that was solid.
It was pretty competitive.
That's my last one.
So what made the switch? What made that happen?
Just chronic injuries.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, nothing big. Just the tendonitis, knees, all that stuff, and the lower back just kind of creeps up on you and kind of ruins training, ruins the fun, takes the fun out of it. So kind of just gave that up.
What do you think? In powerlifting training, I've had the same issues. I herniated 2 discs in 2014, and I bulged the next one. So I had 3 in a row that were just, completely screwed up. And, it just put me out of commission.
Yeah.
And when you get, I don't know how injured you were, but when I had an injury that was that tough, it kind of just, kind of ruins your spirits. You're
For
just
sure.
I was 24 at the time. I'm like, man, am I even going to be able to play with my kids when I'm older? I don't know where this is going. You go to Rothman Institute, and they're like, yeah, we have to do surgery. I elected not to do that, but it just, how far do you take it? So it sounds like you stopped before you got to that point.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I've had lower back issues for probably my whole powerlifting career. So actually my whole lifting career, probably 15 years or plus. Yeah, I herniated my 2 discs in my lower back also.
Okay.
Within the first 3 years of lifting, when I was 16, which kind of
you started young.
Yeah. I started lifting when I was about 15 or so.
Wow.
I believe so. 15, maybe something like that. Yeah, and it was really early on where I hurt my lower back, and then nothing too crazy after that. And then when I started powerlifting, I kept getting constant bicep tendonitis bilaterally due to squatting, and it was
getting your arms behind the bar.
Yeah, I just couldn't fit it under the bar. Yeah, I guess the way I'm built or something. I've tried everything. I've tried Graston, acupuncture, those crazy sleeves, the cryo sleeves, whatever.
And, I mean, you obviously tried all the mobility drills too, right?
All of that, yeah, for months and months and months, and just nothing helped. Something that did help was kind of using different bars leading up to a meet, but then as soon as you put the straight bar back on, it's it hurts instantly.
Yeah.
So I learned after a few meets where I had to pull out of, I just kind of gave it up then and there. Figured, if I couldn't push my limits further than that, it's not really fun for me,
Well, I think that's where the fun of bodybuilding kind of comes in, right? Because you can still push yourself ridiculously hard, but it's in a different manner. So you can do, a 30 reps on a heavy bicep curl. I mean, it hurts.
Yeah.
And it may suck. Go ahead.
No. You're exactly right. The thing with bodybuilding is that you can grow the muscle, but in so many different ways. For powerlifting, you have to squat. You have to do a straight bar back squat. You have to deadlift. You have to bench. But, if you want to get bigger in bodybuilding, you can use every single tool available to you in the gym, every single machine, every single variation to kind of grow that muscle. So it kind of helps you work around injuries.
Yeah, when we had Stan Efferding in and John Meadows, they talked about the vertical diet, and then afterwards they talked about some training stuff. And I guess Stan doesn't identify as a powerlifter. I guess he identifies as a bodybuilder. But he was talking because he said, like, you powerlifters, you're always doing the same motion over and over, and he's like, you don't understand how bad the wear and tear is on all the joints. From bodybuilder would go in and they might not squat during a workout, but they're still growing, they're still hitting the muscle. But with a powerlifter, like, what are you really doing if you're not going in and squatting?
You know what? Stan got that right.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wish I did during my whole powerlifting career. I kind of learned it towards the tail end, which kind of hurt me because I could have been doing it the whole time. But not doing those 3 key movements all the time would have extended my career and probably my numbers higher and further along than if I had, done what I had done. Because, like you said, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle in the end, and you can grow that muscle however way you want it.
Well, I think one thing we don't really realize either is, some of the 212 bodybuilders, when they're going into their like Olympia preps and stuff, and they're training real heavy, some of them will hit, assuming that they're pretty close in body weight to 220, which is the weight class for powerlifting. Some of them will rep, 405 or 10 on bench.
Yeah.
You don't even see too many powerlifters doing that in the 220 weight class. So, like, there must be some carryover to hypertrophy training for strength too.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in the same boat. Like, I just wish I realized that a lot earlier. When I was in college prepping for my nationals, my senior year, my deadlift was always terrible. So I thought to myself, like, all right, let's increase frequency and get this thing better. And all it did was I had to take 6 months off the gym completely after that meet because my hips were completely shot. And so all it did was increase wear and tear and make things so much worse. And my deadlift went up 11 pounds.
It's like looking in a mirror for me.
Yeah.
My deadlift has always been my weak point, and anytime I throw more frequency at it, I just hurt myself.
Yeah,
that's all that happens.
Yeah, I every time, like recently, if I go to deadlift, my deadlift's always the best if I just stop deadlifting for a while and focus on my squat for a little while, and then come back to it for like 3 or 4 weeks where you're warmed up and comfortable, and then like I'll hit a PR, and that
100%.
happens almost every single time.
Yep.
So
and that's what I kind of realized towards the end of my career also, but then by then it was kind of too late for me.
Yeah. So what's been the biggest, like, the difference in training? I mean, obviously you may not be squatting as frequently, but like let's just use legs as an example. Like, what's the difference in workouts between you doing powerlifting and you doing bodybuilding?
Well, the difference so far for me has been a lot more frequency during bodybuilding training.
What was your frequency during powerlifting?
I'd hit everything about 1 to 2 times a week.
Okay.
Now it's anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes 4 if it's a smaller muscle group, like shoulders.
So you're hitting legs 2 to 3 times a week?
Legs usually 2, chest usually 2 to 3, shoulders usually 3 to 4, maybe 5 sometimes. Smaller muscle groups more, larger muscle groups less.
Yeah.
A lot more sessions. The powerlifting training, it'd be like 2 hours, 3 hour sessions.
Yeah.
Pretty normal during peak. Now it's a lot more sessions, so I train anywhere from maybe 8 to 12 sessions a week.
Okay.
So I'll do a lot of AM PMs, but those are usually only anywhere from an hour and a half to even 30 minutes.
What's the we were talking about magazines before we started the podcast, and in the magazines the bodybuilding workouts were always 5 or 6 times a week. It was one workout a week for most of the workouts. Assuming that those are even relatively true, what's making you do 2 workouts a day if we're assuming that like the 90s bodybuilders and stuff weren't doing that stuff?
I think those magazines, they built those. I mean, this is I guess I'm just guessing here, but I think they made those workouts specifically just to hurt people.
Yeah, to hold them back.
Yeah, no, because I remember doing those workouts, and I remember doing them like, oh my God, this is amazing. I feel so sore. And then I'd feel sore for 5 days. And, soreness is great. It's a great indicator of growth, but it's not the only indicator. And if you're sore for that long, it might, you might kind of get a, little idea that maybe it was a little too much.
Yeah.
Maybe dialing back the intensity and volume and breaking it up to smaller sessions might help with growth more.
I've always found that like I really only get sore when I do something different. Right. So if I just throw an odd exercise in out of nowhere, then I'll get sore. But if I were to do the same, 5 or 6 exercises, regardless of sequence, I tend to not get that sore to where I can't recover within, 3 to 4 days span. Do you have any like insight on that?
Yeah. So I hear that a lot, and usually when I probe about that kind of stuff, I find out that, yes, they're sticking with the same variation, but their volume doesn't change either. So are you increasing volume every single time?
It depends. Yeah, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, sometimes there's drop sets. But as far as soreness goes, yeah, probably not. It's probably the same.
Yeah.
No, so like if I'm not that sore,
Yeah.
the workouts are probably very similar.
Very similar, exactly. Yeah. So usually, my soreness does tend to go down throughout a mesocycle. So, I'm usually most sore around week 1, like for you,
yeah,
same thing.
Definitely.
And then as the week goes on, I'm usually a little less sore, but the soreness stays there usually for me because every week I'm adding a set, I'm adding weight, I'm adding a rep here and there.
Right.
So you're always progressing.
So you're doing that for 4 weeks straight?
Yeah, anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks usually, and then I take a deload.
Okay.
Yeah, but
and after you deload, are you switching movements?
Not if I don't have to.
Okay.
So I try to keep a movement there as long as I can until I need to change it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in powerlifting, we warm up. You go to squat, right? That's going to be your first movement every single time, for the majority of the time, or some type of hip hinging movement. In bodybuilding, it's kind of like a free for all, right?
Not always. I mean, it really depends on your strength and weaknesses there. I usually tell people it really depends on the individual. It really depends on the stimulus to fatigue ratio of that movement for that person.
Okay.
So, I mean, someone for like you and me, like starting off with squats, if you were trying to do bodybuilding, is probably not the best idea because we have lower back problems, right? So the first thing that's going to get fatigued is the lower back, right?
Yeah.
So we probably want to try to target the quads in a better way. So you and I would probably start off doing hack squats or leg press for our main quad movement.
Because the back's fully supported.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then after that, once your legs are pretty much toast, you can maybe move from the squats from there.
Okay.
Because you won't be able to load too much weight on there because your legs won't be able to squat it. But because of that, your back doesn't have to support that much weight. So right now, that's exactly what I do in this block. I start off with a leg press, and then I move up straight up to a squat.
Okay, so you're doing compound on compound movements.
Yeah.
You're not doing a lot of isolation, hamstring curls.
I do hamstring curls too. I usually start off with hamstring curls.
Okay, so you're starting off with hamstring curls, then going to the leg press. But you're using the hamstring curls as more of a primer?
No, I literally just do that because after leg press and squats, I don't feel like doing shit. I feel like going home.
So if you don't do it first, you're not. So it's like calves.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's fair. Do you do any like pre-exhaustion on purpose?
I mean, technically, the leg press is a pre-exhaustion, right?
It's still compound though.
Yeah.
Like, so do you structure any isolation movements to pre-exhaust the muscle prior to doing?
No,
Okay.
it's usually the other way around.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So we we had Jason Arntz on here, episode 4, 5, 4, I think, and he's a 212 bodybuilder.
Okay.
I think overall he's ranked like top 10. I think he's been on the Olympia stage. So he put me through a workout. We did one of his like typical workouts, and it was it was leg extensions, hamstring curls, and then we moved on to the hack. We did a leg press, and we finished with barbell squats. So it's very similar to what you're doing, and the reason why he did that is he didn't want to have to put 7 plates on the squat rack.
Sure.
He wanted to be able to get away with 4 or 5.
Sure.
And it was the same concept. And then he just did his isolation stuff in the beginning, and I think that's just because he wanted to put blood in the muscles, so he could train them better.
Okay.
He can feel them. That logic still sticks.
The feeling part, I mean, he might actually find a better mind muscle connection with that. Okay. So I always say try it out. Like anything you like, those types of variations, like switching exercises around and using different exercises, it's always individual. So try it out and see if it targets that muscle better, or if you find a better mind muscle connection with it, because it's kind of different for everyone. There's no like one set rule, I'd say.
And that applies to bodybuilding, but not as much towards powerlifting, or both, you think?
For hypertrophy?
Well, just for, I guess, determining like exercise sequence.
So really depends on the goal at that point. So for bodybuilding, you're always kind of just building hypertrophy, right? It's always a hypertrophy block,
Right.
right? Because you're just trying to grow.
Right.
For powerlifting, I'm hoping most powerlifters like to break it up into like a hypertrophy block and then a strength focused block and then like a peak here and there for
That's how we're
a meet.
supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it, right? So yeah, it really depends. But for hypertrophy, I'd say there's really not much difference between the two sports. Yeah. For strength, for sure, you want to kind of get stronger at those movements or at least very similar variations. So you probably want to keep those first.
Right.
For powerlifting.
So I've always found that with somebody starting out, it's almost easier to kind of push, even if their goal is to look like you, it's almost easier to push them into powerlifting first because they learn how to move properly, right? They learn how to do the big lifts and how to handle a little bit of weight. Would you agree with that, with you being fully functional in both sports now?
I think the order of sports, the way I did it, for me at least, and I don't recommend this for everyone, I think it was the right way to do it.
Beneficial for you?
Yeah. I think the way I went about powerlifting overall, not so much.
Fair.
Yeah. But I think if you do the powerlifting sport properly, all the blocks, and then move on to bodybuilding later in life is probably beneficial.
The time that it really dawned on me is I started seeing like figure girls on Instagram, and then you look at like you go to a powerlifting meet and you see some of the like 123 132 girls, and you're like, dude, you would kill it in figure. And you can see that those movements that they're doing, and they're not bodybuilders by any means, but the muscle that they put on, the places that they put the muscle on, would be so beneficial for a lot of figure competitors. And you see a lot of them lacking in muscle in those spots when they go to compete. So that's really when it dawned on me, is that there's probably more of a crossover there than we really think.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I know you said you don't really follow bodybuilding culture, but do you remember Kirk Kowalski?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone knows Captain Kirk.
All right. So I know he was a powerlifter, but he just he was just freakishly huge.
He's a freak.
And I just can't think of a bodybuilder in today's era that wouldn't want to look like that guy.
Yeah, I mean, minus the waist, for sure, 100%.
Well, yeah.
He was one of my the guys I looked up to when I first got into powerlifting. I'm like, oh my god, they're gods among us.
Yeah. I mean, he was like urban legend too.
Yeah.
Like you just heard
crazy tales
stories.
Yeah.
So kind of like
that you can't
Chuck
repeat.
Vogelpool
for
for West Side. When you trained in powerlifting, just to revert back a little bit, were you training more like following Powerlifting Stable, programming off of that, or were you kind of doing like more conjugate method stuff? Or
I've tried it all.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first started powerlifting, I actually gave the whole West Side thing a try. What was it? The max effort days and the speed days.
Yeah, dynamic effort.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have
that's
RE
right.
days, depending on your
That was
hypertrophy.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, doing circumaxes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I tried all that stuff. I follow a lot of Mike T stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was the first one that was like hooking up his laptop to the barbell to measure speed.
Yeah, his
And,
little
yeah.
what's it called? With the little string.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though. I saw him do that, and I was like, "What the hell is this guy? Is he an astronaut?" Like, but so, I mean, what were your successes and failures with those training types?
There was not nearly enough volume in the West Side method for me, personally. At least how it was laid out, the way I saw it. The most, I guess, success I found was just kind of focusing on a simple periodization and making sure I hit certain RPEs throughout my meso, and just literally simple as that.
Yeah,
it helped pretty much self-regulate fatigue, and I think that was my number one thing that I wish I had learned early on.
Is not to bury yourself into the ground every training session?
That was the thing that I think just kind of shortened my powerlifting career.
But you're not going through the motions either, right? Like you're still finding a pretty high intensity. It's just not burying yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like when I first started, I would just crush myself every session.
Until you have nothing left.
Yeah, you have that ego. When you're younger, you just want to get after it, because that's how you get stronger, right?
Well, yeah, and you're watching Branch Warren videos,
exactly.
and Johnny Jackson,
Yep. But then sooner or later, I learned that the slow and steady approach definitely works, because this is not a sprint.
Yeah.
You don't squat 800 pounds overnight.
Yeah.
It takes years, and you have years, so why not just take it slow?
Yeah. We another thing that kind of dawned on me is those guys are probably training a lot like that for video, right? Because it's fun, it's entertaining, and aside from that, I think you would know more than I would, but the high intensity training like that probably works better with muscle retention than it might with growth.
Yeah, for me, for sure. I found the most growth by doing high volume. High volume and high frequency.
What's high volume do you?
For legs, anywhere from, for me at least, for quads and big muscle parts, anywhere from 8 to 12 working sets a week.
8 to 12 sets?
A week.
Okay.
So it's not that much.
What's your rep range, though?
It varies, anywhere from 5 to 30 reps.
Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of goes across all muscle groups in terms of reps. But, sets go up, the smaller muscles they are, because you can train them more and they recover faster.
Do you find that isolation movements tend to be not in the 5 range? Like that?
Yes.
Like that's going to push it a little bit higher?
100%. Yeah.
But just because it's compound, it doesn't exclude it from being up there either, right?
Exactly. So, for example, in this block, my main quad day, I start off with leg press, lying leg curls, and then I go to leg press, which is anywhere from 20 to 30 reps per set. And then I go to squats, which is anywhere from like 5 to 8 reps.
So let's just use your leg press, for example. When you move on to leg press, are you doing, if your goal is 30 reps, you're not doing 30 reps every set leading up to your top set, right?
No.
So how are you setting that up?
So if I'm going to go, let's say, work up to 700, it'll be like 200, then 400, then 500, 600. And then I'll just do, start off with 10 reps. To 8 reps, 6 reps. I kind of feel it out. You never want to kind of, waste any energy or, actual muscle. You don't want to cause any fatigue during the actual warm-ups, but you want to get them warmed up.
So you're priming yourself for one set?
No.
Okay.
My first set will be my target rep range, which is anywhere from 20 to 30.
Okay.
And then from there, I use a rep and reserve system, which is kind of similar to RPE in powerlifting.
Just opposite-ish.
Yeah. It's I find it very similar. It's kind of so I'll do if I go in and the RIR is 2, so my first set I'll do 2 from failure, and then second set I'll do 2 from failure. It's usually anywhere from 26, then 24, then 20.
Because it's the same weight, so you're not going to perform the same. Okay. Yeah, it gets a little confusing when you have guys on YouTube's talking about, don't train like that, basically. Don't do 5 sets at the same weight. I think Dave Palumbo always talks about on RX Muscle, he would work, they would work in and they would work up to one crazy set, and then, they might do a drop set on that or just move to the next exercise.
For sure.
But you're doing 4 sets at the same weight, and then your reps are going to fall because the weight's heavy.
For sure.
But it just gets confusing because for me personally, I've always grown the most from doing exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When my legs were the biggest, and my legs are not very big right now, but when they were the biggest, I was squatting 315 for sets of 20, and I was doing 4 sets of 20. Ish. Obviously the reps would fall 1 or 2 as your sets go on. That first set, you just feel great. You get all the blood in the muscles, and then the other sets, it felt like you were actually doing the damage, right? Because it's the same motion, and you're furthering everything. And then we would move over to leg press after that, and we're doing some high volume. But I just noticed my legs just grew so fast. But everything you see online, it feels like they're saying to do the opposite.
You mean do one top heavy set and then do down sets?
Yeah.
I don't think either way is incorrect, as long as you're hitting certain amount of intensity and certain amount of volume. and as long as you're progressing month to month, meso to meso, macro to macro.
When you say progressing, does it have to be in weight or reps? Can it be in
weight,
movement quality?
So,
but it's
sure.
unmeasurable.
Yeah. So movement quality, you always want to hope to get to a point where your movement quality is, 100% all the time, right?
Okay.
But let's say barring that it is, then from there it's you always want to increase at least weight, reps, or sets, right? Throughout mesocycles.
Okay.
Throughout the years too.
Yeah, it just I guess when that stuff stalls, that's when you have movement rotations, right?
Exactly.
So if you're your leg press that you're doing after the hamstring curls, if you let's say you can only go up to a certain amount, and you just keep
and then
stalling,
and then your knees or something bothers you, switch it up.
switch over to hacks. And
It's a lot of people like to complicate it beyond that, but it's really not that.
I liked last year when Mike and Jeff Long were going back and forth about squatting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I think they know each other. They were just playing with each other back and forth on social. And we had Jeff in here, and his legs are massive, right? And obviously Mike's not a small guy anymore either. And Jeff's response when he was on here is like, "Well, my legs are bigger." But I don't think that's enough evidence, right?
No.
You can't have one guy saying, "Well, mine are bigger. My way works better."
That's like saying, all respect to Ronnie Coleman. That's like lifting advice from Ronnie Coleman. Probably not the best idea.
It's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would love to look like him, though.
Oh,
It's
for
just
sure.
not the
Oh,
aftermath.
yeah. I get my left nut. You're crazy.
But so I think for Mike, I think what he was trying to get at is if you're going to get the best bang for your buck in building the legs and just building the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when I was squatting twice a week in college, I didn't train back. I deadlifted and I did back extensions, but that was it. But my back grew like crazy just from having a 600 to 700 pound barbell on my back all the time.
Yeah.
And but is there any like absolutes for you where you're like, listen, if you're looking to put muscle on your legs, like you have to do this movement, or no?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
No absolutes for me. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Leg extensions.
And people love that stuff, right?
Yeah.
People love the rules. Like, do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Unfortunately, I'm not that cool. I'm not a YouTube guy. I don't have those rules.
Well, I think it makes it easier for people. Like it puts
does.
them on autopilot. They see somebody that they like, and we'll use Jeff as an example. Jeff has such a great following. Whatever he says is gospel, and people just follow it to a T.
Yeah.
So if Jeff says don't squat, nobody squats.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not trying to hate. I think that stuff might be helpful kind of starting off just to get people into the culture.
Yeah.
But I think, as you want to actually grow and learn more, you learn that there isn't one answer to everything. It's a harder concept to kind of grasp because, it's not a concrete, like, do this, don't do that, right? But I think that's why people gravitate towards the easier stuff.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to think.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it.
Yeah, the squat is a very complex movement, and for somebody who's newer to lifting, it can make you feel like you're a fawn, baby fawn.
Sure.
So people don't know where to put their legs. They don't know how to sit back or allow their knees to go forwards. They don't know how far they're supposed to fold, where the bar is supposed to go on their back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can jump on a leg press and kind of figure it out within the first couple sessions. So it's definitely a lot different. I was watching a YouTube video from Mike the other day, and he mentioned something called MRV. Can you explain what that is?
Not as well as he can.
Not as well as he can?
Yeah, but it's...
Maybe we'll link a video
yeah,
in
it
this
stands
one
for
people.
maximal recoverable volume.
Okay, so there's a set amount of volume that your body can
handle.
Handle.
Exactly, and it's used in that throughout a mesocycle.
Okay.
You want to approach MRV. So you don't want to pretty much start off too high because as you progress throughout the meso, which I'm hoping you are, everyone is, you don't want to exceed MRV too soon. Okay. So that's why the MRV concept exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would also change, like, let's say there's a mesocycle where let's say you think that your quads are too small and you're trying to get them to grow and you want to test out a higher frequency.
Yep.
That MRV amount's going to change because your frequency changed, correct?
No.
No?
The MRV would stay the same still.
The MRV's for the total week?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it per session rather than on a
Well,
weekly basis.
that also exists.
Okay.
Per session MRV.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a set in stone concrete concept.
But if you're training legs twice a week and you have a certain MRV that you want to accomplish,
exactly total sets, total volume.
But that would be different than 3 days a week. So your sessions would change per.
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, so example, my last meso, I was hitting my back 2 times a week.
Okay.
But now it's 3 times a week this meso. But so because of that, I'm reducing my volume per session to kind of split it up amongst the 3.
So do you think that unbeknownst to all the older, bodybuilders, that they kind of may have came up with that concept when they're doing stuff like drop sets and supersets and all that stuff? Do you think that implementation was kind of, for that?
I think some of it was.
Yeah.
I think some of it they were just copying each other, but
yeah, finding ways to compete against each other.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it was a way to kind of push themselves towards MRV. Yeah.
Do you think that there's a good implementation of drop sets and supersets?
Use them if you like them, but make sure you use them hopefully throughout the mesocycle, so you have something to base each week on.
So you have the data to figure out if it's working for you.
Exactly, because I see some guys they'll literally just throw a drop set in randomly because they're like, "Oh, I feel good today. I feel good. I'm going to do a drop set. I want to get a pump." And that's literally the only reason why I do it. But if you methodically use a drop set or like a down set per se, throughout a meso and throughout your macro, that it's a great way, to kind of implement that to kind of change things up.
Do you think that training, whether you're trying to gain mass or you're dieting down, do you think the use of that stuff changes?
No.
So training in general, you don't think changes much?
No. I think your progression from week to week, when you're trying to lose weight, might slow down. But besides that, training's training.
Yeah. So it's good to hear, because you see, we have a brick and mortar retail store, so we see a ton of people every day, and they all come in saying different things with different goals. And oftentimes we get younger kids that come in, or older guys. They're almost always men though, and they go, I want to cut down. I just started doing lightweight high reps.
Yeah. So I don't really think that matters during massing and cutting. While you're trying to lose weight, your MRV might fall, so you're doing overall less volume. But the difference between high reps and low reps, if you're massing and doing like a weight loss phase, I mean, there's no real science behind that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. And then just one more thing regarding MRV. It would change depending on if there's enhancements involved.
For sure.
If somebody's natural.
100%. And calories, everything like that too. So like like I said, when you're cutting, your MRV tends to drop a bit.
Or we were talking earlier, we have a lot of blue collar people in this area. Some of them get moved over to night shift. When they're sleep lax, their MRV would go down too, right?
Oh, tons. Sleep is like a huge factor in recovery.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're not getting your proper sleep, every day, good rest, oh man, that's the number one thing I tell people want to look out for when they're in a fat loss phase.
Sleep.
Yeah, it's like sleep. Make sure you're sleeping. If not, then your whole phase is gonna go to shit.
Yeah, we get a lot of people in that get frustrated with themselves. Their life changes. They have a kid or something happens, and then they try to go in the gym and be the same person they were prior to that.
Yeah, you have to adjust for that.
It just doesn't work. They either get injured, they get burnt out, and they give up, right?
Yeah.
So they lose hope in the progress because they're no longer progressing from week to week. So. During a little break there, we were talking about diet, so let's switch into diet a little bit.
Great.
I think that's what your company's about, right?
I think so.
A little bit. Yeah. I just saw, actually, I think you guys just had like 500,000 followers.
Yeah,
on
you
Instagram.
have 500,000 followers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're all organic too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like no crazy.
We've never done any kind of weird like buying followers
I
or.
forgot people did that.
People do. Yeah, people do it all the time. Yeah, we've never bought a follower or done anything like that.
I remember when Instagram purge, the purchase
Yeah, I remember
followers.
that. Yeah, like tons of influencers just fell from grace. Just
Yeah, not all, like fitness was like the worst. I feel like,
Yeah.
but you saw like movie stars and
Yeah.
stuff, like their following just completely died. Yeah, and then you see the news articles just roasting them, getting what they deserve. You know, I feel like there's a big wave with dieting and how the technology of dieting today. I feel like you guys are macro based, right? And I feel like Lane Norton really started that push on that trend. To put out the if it fits your macros type stuff. And then a lot of the old school bodybuilders are like, well, I don't follow macros, but I kind of follow macros, right? Because I eat the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And then when I'm dieting, I take out half a cup. Right? Well, your macros are changing. So even though they're not calculating them, they're still following the same concepts.
Yeah.
And it's basically structure.
calories in, calories out, right?
Yeah. But your diet right now, how many grams of carbs are you eating?
Just 700.
700 grams of carbs. And your protein's at
275.
and your fat's at
80.
80.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like that's the typical, not that many carbs, but like that ratio is very typical for like a lot of the young guys today. When we have some of the old school bodybuilders come in, they might have one day a week like that or one day a month like that. They're almost all higher fat, way higher protein, completely different. If the other diet's creating great physiques, right? What's the reason for the change today?
Oh, you mean the high fats diet worked in the past?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this now?
Yeah, especially if we praise the physiques of the 90s and the early 2000s. Why has technology told us to change it?
I mean, the science says that higher carbs will help you perform better in the gym, and higher performance is going to net more hypertrophy in the end, right?
For a mass building phase, definitely. But would it be the same when you're dieting?
Yeah, you need carbs to perform, right? So it's even I would say it's even more crucial during fat loss phase. But on top of that, I mean the bodybuilders from the early 2000s, I'm not sure if a lot of them had a lot of high fat diets, because I mean at least from videos I've seen, like Jay Cutler, you seen like videos of him eating.
Oh,
it's just literally I looked at it. Because I haven't heard too much from Jay Cutler over the years. At least him talking about nutrition. Yeah. It's just him talking about how much he hates bodybuilding for the most part. But like I'll see him eat, and like he'll talk about how much he hates eating, but it's always like lean chicken breast or lean fish and like mounds of rice and like trace fats. And that's pretty much what I try to do every day too. But, like he wasn't thinking of doing that. He wasn't like probably focused on that. Probably a coach told him to do that, but he and other bodybuilders, I think, were eating like that back in the early 2000s.
I remember a video where he had like his main plate. I think he had a bowl and like 3 other plates of food. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, but like if you look at that, it's high carb.
Yeah, it was all like oatmeal, like cream of rice. Yeah, it was. So maybe you're right. Maybe the guys that we're having on here are lying to us. I'm gonna have to talk to them about it.
I don't think they're lying per se too. Like a lot of times, I just think people kind of maybe digest fats a little better also. Yeah, and they could probably utilize the fats a little better than others. I can't. But
do you think it's gonna give a different end result of the physique?
In a long-term sense?
Show day sense.
Show day sense. Yeah. I can almost guarantee you, I put a lot of money on it, that almost no top bodybuilder has a high-fat diet going into a peak for bodybuilding.
Maybe not high-fat, but all right. So a lot of these guys, what they'll do is they'll dip fats and carbs basically to nothing, and then they're on a protein and veggie diet, going into the last couple weeks or so. Okay. So they call it like keto, but it's not keto, right? It's keto in the sense that you're not eating anything. And then obviously like PEDs and stuff can help keep them in an anabolic state, and then they carb up a couple days before the show, and they look really good. Yeah. But is that end result physique going to be different than somebody who's eating massive amount of carbs and just tapering it down?
How far? You mean like
at show day?
Show day. You mean? Oh, I got you. You mean from just doing a slow taper of all your macros, pretty much, opposed to cutting it all out for the most part and then carving up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if reducing calories drastically and then carving up to peak is going to produce way better results than just tapering your carbs to actual show day. I don't know too much about prepping, bodybuilding prep. I've done one. Our coach at Renaissance Periodization, Jared Feather.
Yeah.
He's really, really accomplished.
Yeah, I've talked to him a few times.
Yeah, he's super smart. He would know more about that. But the general sense that I get is that you're trying to deplete and then create this big influx of fluids into the muscles. And to do that is you need to deplete and then send a bunch of carbs and sodium your way. And, you can't really do that with a slow taper, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just slowly tapering and then there's no real influx of carbs at the end.
So, we know that a high carb, when your carbs are real high, you can reduce the amount of protein that you're consuming, right? Because carbs are protein sparing and fats are protein sparing as well. Do you think that there's a big difference in which energy source that you're choosing? If your overall calories are about the same?
For performance, carbs.
Let's just say for building muscle.
For building muscle, I'm not sure. I assume it's almost doesn't matter too much. Calorie wise, because at the end of the day it's energy. But I am going to go back to performance because if you perform better in the gym, you're going to retain and grow muscle better.
Fair.
So it all goes back to performance. That's why we promote carbs as a number one energy source because it's already available more so than fats.
So I work pretty closely with a rejuvenation doctor that's local here. He's got a pretty good reputation. He's worked with a lot of bodybuilders that have been on the pro circuit and the Olympia stage. He does these 20-page blood panels and all this stuff, and he still swears up and down that people should really not be eating carbohydrates. And he's dead set on that. Every time I go there, he tries to reduce my carbs.
And you're not.
All right, so here's the thing. So one time I said, you know what, old guy, I'm going to give it a run here. And so I got blood work done on like the end of December, and this was 2017. And I said, you know what, you want me to drop my carbs? I'm going to drop my carbs. I went keto. And so I kept I was at 3,200 calories, and I kept my calories there. I dropped my protein all the way down to like 180, and my fat was 300, 320, somewhere in that range. And I did that for 6 months. My blood work went from orange and red to almost 100% green.
Okay.
Absolutely everything. And then what was weird was my testosterone went up 180 points.
Okay.
So full natty keto diet. Like it worked. So at least to me, my markers got better. You think it just differs based on the body type and the person?
I think a lot of that is genetics. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak on it too much, but I think genetics is a huge
But I'm sure you guys get your blood work done, and you guys, look at each other's stuff, and you say, okay, maybe something's not right here, and maybe insulin sensitivity is down. So in those situations, would you drop your carbohydrates and increase fats to keep your calories up?
I wouldn't know, to be honest.
Because you haven't ran into that situation yourself.
Yeah. My A1C is like
perfect. Oh. That's why you got 700 and whatever grams of carbs.
This is low for me.
Yeah, really? What's the highest you've been to?
1,200 a day.
You've been to 1,200. What do you eat?
I eat about a box and a half of cereal at least, on top of tons of rice. I fill these things up with 2 of these for 2 sessions of 200 grams of carbs each.
What?
It's just pure dextrose I'll put in here. Yeah. It's disgusting. I hate it.
Do you ever, like, with that many carbs, like, do you ever go, like hyperglycemic?
No.
So, like, you don't have any
I have no issues. If anything, I have issues going hypo.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because of, the big crash.
Yeah.
If I don't get my carbs in a timely manner. But no, I never feel any
All right,
issues.
so did you get blood work done when you were eating 1,200 calories?
Yeah.
Or 1,200 grams of carbs?
Yeah.
And your blood work was fine?
Stellar.
Well, I mean, they're blaming a lot of cholesterol issues on carbohydrates,
Yeah.
right? Especially those who eat empty carbohydrates without protein or fats to slow digestion. Is they're saying that you get this big insulin spike and it's causing like plaque within your arteries, right? You didn't have any issues with that whatsoever.
I didn't. Yeah, I can't speak if it does or not.
Well, I mean, your athletes would tell you too, right? I mean, you guys have.
Well, yeah, I don't coach anyone.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in general, like through the Renaissance Periodization, I mean, if everybody was coming back like pre-diabetic, you guys would probably make some changes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think Mike would go back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
on that.
no, we've never had issues like anything like that. Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of that, like I said, to do with genetics also. I mean, me being Asian, Asians tend to handle carbs better than most other races, actually. So.
That's crazy.
And European ancestry usually tends to handle fats better.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense because my soon-to-be wife, our wedding got canceled because of COVID. Yeah. She's Maltese, and her family would just eat cheese.
And
like
be
that's
fine.
That's a meal to them.
If I eat like a couple ounces of cheese, I have the worst like stomach cramps. Like, not from like the lactose. And like if I eat a steak, I love burgers, all that stuff. I love that stuff.
So you do well with red meat?
No. I'll eat it, and then I'll be keeled over for like 3 hours.
No shit.
Like I'll just feel horrible. Yeah.
So year round, you're kind of eating lean meats.
Oh yeah, like my fats. So this is my mass phase. 80 grams of fats is my like highest I'll go. It goes down to like 30 grams of fats. Like when I'm.
And your metabolism's on fire at that point, right? Like you're ready to eat almost at all times.
Yeah, because but as soon as I eat anything high fat, my appetite just gets crushed.
What about like whole eggs?
Yeah,
you don't do any of that.
One whole egg.
That's what you'll do. It's like one whole egg, and then maybe like a cup of egg whites or something.
Yeah, I'll usually just do a whole container of egg whites, but yeah, I usually just cut the egg whites out completely. I mean the eggs out completely.
Yeah, you don't find. I mean, there's a lot of nutrients in fat, right?
Yeah, sure.
So they could be beneficial implementing that, but you think?
Yeah, but 80 grams of fat is plenty for me.
Yeah. For daily function, for brain function.
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
Stuff.
Yeah. I use, for me personally, anywhere from 50 grams up is completely fine.
Okay.
Once I start dipping below 50, then I get the fogginess and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Prep brain, they call it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because again, you just like training, you see so many different trains of thought, especially with with diet. I know that there was another prep coach that was talking about how fats can basically convert to DHEA. And he was talking about how that can help with cortisol management and all this other stuff. And, you just wonder, like, does it matter? And if it does matter, like, how high of a level do you have to be at for it to have an impact on you?
Yeah.
That's always been my question is, like who is that information really for?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Yeah. I always tell people, start off with a sensible diet, for whatever you're trying to do, and then get blood work done if you need to, and then just from there, or just like, adjust by your progress, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to hear a crazy story about the diet, actually, the high fats, I don't handle high fats at all, and I learned the most terrible way possible years back, right before was it right before I met Mike? Yeah, right before I met Mike, like
before he saved you.
3-4 years ago, something like that. I was doing the typical, the powerlifting diet, bulk diet,
everything,
which is
seafood diet.
Yeah, seafood.
Yeah,
he knows.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So like my fats were like probably like 150 grams a day or more.
Okay.
Which is like it's not that high, right?
Yeah.
For like a fat ass powerlifter, but it's like not great, right? And I was like cramming it down because I'm trying to get my weight up, and I'm being very like I must do this.
It's like a manhood test.
Yeah, I would literally like. There's a point in time where I'd be like slamming food. Every single meal I'd take down, I'd like dry heave while I'm eating it, and like tears and snot, like almost every meal. Like I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. Unfortunately there's video proof of this. Until one day, one night, I woke up around 5 a.m. or something like that after barely any sleep, and I got to the bathroom and I vomited, which was normal for me, unfortunately. But it was just a black grind that came out. It looked like coffee grounds. And then immediately after that, I started just like vomiting blood. So I drove myself to ER, like vomiting blood the whole time. And they sent me in the back. They put like a tube into my sinus, down to my stomach, and then I just started projectile vomiting blood all over the nurses everywhere. They sent me to the OR. They put me under. I wake up in the ICU. I spent a whole week there, and apparently I split my esophagus in half from all the dry heaving and the stomach acid. Yeah, it's called a Mallory Weiss tear, and apparently only like usually like bulimics or like alcoholics get it. And this is the first time I've ever seen anyone that's not one of those two get it. And they asked me like, what happened? I'm like, I was forcing myself to eat, so I almost died. My like blood count went from like 18 or so down to like 8.5. So I lost like more than half my blood volume. God. Don't do that. It's not fun, by the way.
Well, my story's not that extreme, but I was doing the same thing when I started powerlifting. Weight training in general. I was 18 and a half. I was 130 pounds, and by the time I was 19, I was up at Penn State, and they had a powerlifting team, and I wanted to join. I came a little late, so they pushed me off until the next year. And by the time I joined the powerlifting team, I was maybe $190. So I had made a ton of progress, and I had to eat a lot to get there.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of like bro dieting.
Yeah.
And then you get on the powerlifting team, and the influence of everybody else is like,
it's so bad.
They're like, oh, you're 5'8" on your best day, and they're like, you should be in 220. Oh, maybe 242. I'm like, really? And so you start eating it, and I was eating to be a 220. And at one point, I was doing a gallon of whole chocolate milk, because you can get whole chocolate milk in Center County. You can't get that over here as much, but in Center County you can get it. So I was doing a gallon of whole chocolate milk a day. With that chocolate milk, once a day I was creating like an ice cream shake. And so it was half whole milk, half ice cream. It was oats, peanut butter, protein in there. And I would mix it up. But the trick was, those 3-pound containers of ground beef?
Yes.
All right, so that was 2 meals for me. And what I would do is I would cook pasta, and I would put it over pasta, and I would soak it in olive oil. The olive oil wasn't for the calories. It was to lube it down.
Oh, God.
Right? So the trick was to drink the shake while you're eating the meal.
That's like 200 grams of fats right there.
But if you do it fast enough, you trick your brain to you not being full. Right?
Yeah.
And like if you were to eat that and then try to drink in a half hour, you wouldn't be able to do it.
So how terrible did you feel 3 hours after that?
Well, so I had 2 roommates at the time at Penn State, and my one, we were all childhood friends who just so happened to be up there, and the one had IBS. So between him and me, we were going through like those big things of toilet paper every week, and it was just miserable. And then later on it dawned on me like, well, if the food's running through me, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and maybe I got to look at digestion a little bit. But before I got to that point, I had to push it further, and I went through about a month and a half of adding in a large pizza every day as well. And then you read the Dave Tate article where he didn't just eat the pizza, he put olive oil on it. Yeah. So then I was doing that too, and it just got so messy. But I also have videos of my roommates videoing me throwing up from force feeding. But then you throw up and you just throw up your food, so now you got to eat again.
Yeah.
And it's just like this vicious
cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't powerlift, guys. God. But I was always in an endless supply of energy, and I recovered really well. So there had to be some benefits to it. So needless to say, you've never tried a ketogenic diet, or haven't even.
I have when I was like 170 pounds.
It was a long time ago.
Long time ago. I tried it. Felt tired, for the most part.
Yeah.
But I got lean.
Yeah.
But that was because my total energy balance was below what I needed. So obviously you're just going to, shed fat at that point. Yeah. It's easy.
When I did it, the first few pounds were water.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing. But I also noticed, I would eat and have to run to the bathroom. And I didn't realize that when you're not consuming carbohydrates, you're not hydrated.
Yeah.
And you need to add salt to all of your meals.
Yes.
That took a month of me going through that to now I got it. And then I was fine for the remainder of the ketogenic diet.
Speaking of keto, actually, so I don't do keto diets anymore, obviously, but I go into keto plenty fine on my diet when I'm prepping. I'll put 200 to 300 grams of carbs. I'm keto all the time.
How are you in ketosis at 300 grams of carbs?
Because I burn carbs that quickly.
Yeah. You've actually used the test?
My last prep, I didn't even have to use a test. My keto breath was so horrible. You've gotten keto breath before? Yeah, it's not your breath. It comes from your lungs. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how much you brush your teeth, or you could swish a whole bottle of Listerine for all day long, it's gonna smell like that. But yeah, I was in ketosis for like 3 months.
But wouldn't you be coming in and out?
Apparently not. Not if you're, I guess, spacing the carbs out throughout the day.
Well, I guess if your burning rate is higher than your intake rate.
Yeah. At 300 grams of carbs, I was in ketosis all the time.
I've never heard of that ever. That's crazy.
You have to be 240 pounds, I guess, and Asian.
Well, I guess, the old school part about dieting, and I don't know if you follow YouTube guys on today's, bodybuilding,
Yeah,
but
not too much.
I remember, we had Evan Santapani down for our 2-year anniversary.
Okay.
And I remember him, we all put our cell phones away, and we had this open conversation for 2 hours. And it was the greatest thing because he's such a down-to-earth guy, and he's not in it to bait and switch you on anything. And, his goal before prep is to eat as much food as possible. And then he switches over to prep, and he slowly takes out the food that he's eating. Like, he's like, no, it's really like, that's it.
It's so simple.
That's my entire, prep. And do you do that? I mean, I know you're not like a bodybuilder, but the guys with RP and with all the stuff that you're following, are you guys just ramping up calories as much as you can prior to prep?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. So I am right now because I'm massing, obviously. So my plan is to mass throughout the whole year, end of the year, and then go straight into pretty much
a diet prep.
Diet, yeah.
But so it's going to make it easier for you, right? So if you end up at, again, 1,200 carbs and your protein's at 300 and maybe your fat climbs up a little bit further, won't it make it easier for you to diet? Because your metabolic rate's going to be so high, right?
No.
No?
Yeah, as soon as you cut that food out, you're hungry again.
Well, yeah, but you don't think dieting on 5,000 calories is easier than dieting on 2?
For sure, but wait. So I'm kind of confused with the question.
So if you drive your metabolism up to, I don't know what your total calories are. I'm not that great at math.
Oh, drive. Oh, I understand what you're asking. You're asking if. So pretty much what you're asking is about the term metabolic damage people use all the time, because you're saying that if you're in a low calorie state for a long time, you cause damage to your metabolism, and you're less efficient.
Yeah, so wouldn't it make like prepping for a show easier if you spend more time driving food up?
Okay. No,
reverse dieting, essentially?
Yeah, so I don't think metabolic damage is a real thing. That's why I got a little confused about the question. Yeah.
Okay.
So I if I'm ramping my calories up through a mass, it's not increasing my metabolism per se. My basal metabolism is the same.
What if your body weight stays the same and your calories are increasing?
Then something's wrong with you.
but then your metabolism could be speeding up, no?
Sure. I've yet to see that.
Okay.
But no. I mean, in that case, if that was the case, then yes, that's the only conclusion you can come to, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but I've personally never seen that happen. Yeah, usually when you start increasing calories, body weight will go up one way or another. Yeah, barring any kind of weird GI issues that one might have. But beyond that, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, that'd be great. I would love that. I think most people would love that, right?
Well, yeah,
Eat more and then just stay the same weight.
But you've never increased calories and lost weight, or increased calories
over a long term? No.
Not over a long term. Over like a short term period, though.
That's like a week maybe or something like that.
No, like, you've never. Have you ever reverse dieted?
What? Can you explain that?
So slowly,
I've heard the term.
Slowly implementing. Usually, it's more calories, but it's usually more carbohydrates over a period of time. So you're just as strict as you would be in prep, but you're reversing out of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are able to stay pretty lean and adding a good amount of food back into their diet plan.
Their body weight goes up, though. They might stay lean, but their body weight goes up.
I see.
Yeah.
So the metabolism's not actually changing then?
No. So I know what you're saying. So pretty much they end up prep, and then they slowly increase carbs up, but they stay the same leanness, visually, but they get heavier and more jacked per se, right?
Okay.
That's just them filling out more. Yeah.
So they're just putting muscle back on?
Yeah, in a sense, glycogen. Yeah, some muscle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Muscle weight in that term. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
I just always thought that if you're starting a prep at 5,000 calories, it's going to be a lot easier to, to get down if you're doing a 12 or 16 week prep. It's going to be a lot easier you have more tools in the arsenal, I feel like.
For sure. I mean, like 100%. The higher you're starting your calories, the easier. I mean, depending on the length, given that length is equal, of course it's going to be easier.
And I guess body fat as well, right? So if we were to duplicate you and have that guy eating 3,000 calories, right? Because it's possible for somebody to be close to your size with a lower caloric intake.
Yes.
So if we were to take you two, you at, let's just say you're at 6,000, and your twin at 3,000, and both diet at the same time for the same show, wouldn't you have more tools in your arsenal?
Yes, but hunger levels kind of vary from person to person too, because like it's all relative, right? Because someone might be eating 3,000 calories, and might be full, but I might be eating 5,000 calories. I might be starving, right?
Right.
So that level of difficulty is all relative. Because like I said, I was eating about at my lowest about 250 grams of carbs or something around there.
Yeah.
For my last like prep I did.
You were dying.
Yeah, but like the show got canceled, so I didn't do it. Yeah, I was miserable. Like, but people were like, "You're eating 250 grams of carbs. You're eating like French toast every night." But I'm like, but I'm so hungry. Help me.
Yeah, I guess I'm still stuck on, if the starting point's, again, 6,000, 3,000, you have to work down over 16 weeks for
sure.
prep.
You always have to work down to lose weight.
So that 3,000 guy, I guess it does
it's
go
all
back
relative,
there.
right?
Yeah,
it's all relative, right?
All right, you win that battle. I concede. All right, so I like to make these podcasts really about the customer base, and whatever we can do to inform them and make their lives easier on achieving their goals is great.
For sure.
Now, our customer base isn't just bodybuilders and powerlifters. It's not just meatheads. We get a lot of people in that do cycling, endurance, athletes.
All different kind of sports. Gen Pop probably too, right?
Yeah.
People trying to stay healthy.
Yeah. And so how much is, like, for an endurance athlete, whether it's a swimmer, a cyclist, or a runner, how much different is the diet than a bodybuilder?
So I don't know exactly, since I don't have a nutrition background, but I do know that endurance athletes, the carb focus is way heavier.
Really?
Yeah. For a fact, I know that.
But does carb type matter?
That I'm not sure of.
Okay.
I only know that because, surprisingly enough, we just came out with a carb calculator for endurance athletes.
Oh.
Yeah, like
nice.
on RP. So like I know it exists.
Another link.
There you go. So yeah, that's the only reason I know, but I'm not sure about the actual carb type. There's actually a book on that too on RP.
Okay.
For endurance athletes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's just you see a lot of stuff again on Instagram and YouTube. You see a lot of endurance athletes when keto got big. They were pushing keto, that this is that the fats will be more sustainable energy because they take longer to digest. They give your body a longer amount of time to utilize that energy. But you guys have found that has not worked out to the endurance athlete's best benefit.
From as far as I know, no. Yeah.
That's interesting. All right. I don't have a ton more, but I think a good idea would be to kind of go over what RP does.
Yeah.
And then, where people can find it and all that stuff.
For sure. So, yeah, Renaissance Periodization. We focus heavily on evidence-based nutrition and sports science information. We're really big in the CrossFit, weightlifting, powerlifting world, but I would say majority of our market is actually just Gen Pop.
Okay.
Yeah. We try to keep it, like I said, very evidence-based, but very easy to digest. Because, no one likes to read all that jargon sometimes.
What do you, are you guys providing, a platform of
Yes.
information?
So, yeah, we produce a lot of content, as you know, from our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we have, diet templates, training templates, all that kind of jazz. But our flagship product is an app.
Okay.
It's called the RP Diet app. You could download it on Google Play or the App Store. Pretty much everything we talked about and all the, the quandaries of dieting, what do you do? How do I do this? It's all very confusing. It's different too, a little for individual to individual,
situational.
right?
So situational.
The app takes care of that. It's literally, the code was, the logic behind the code, it was all pretty much written by Dr. Mike Yrzertel. So it's his brain, essentially, in an app. And it adjusts for your metabolism and your progress and results week to week to week So it's not the same diet for everyone. It's completely different for each individual, and it really depends on your goals and the time of length. The time length of your actual goal window.
So it's providing you information so you can learn, but it
tells you what to eat.
But it like food source wise?
No, so you pick the food sources, but it tells you exactly how much to eat of that.
The macros.
Yeah, it reminds you of every meal if you wanted to. It reminds you of meals. It builds your whole diet around your training if you train, your sleep schedule, your waking schedule, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so literally, like, all this stuff is great to learn online and, like, learn about. But, like, if you have that app, you don't need it.
Yeah,
You know,
it just puts you on autopilot.
100%. All you have to do is pick your foods and shove it in your mouth.
How about that?
Yeah.
So
I'll get you the subscription.
Yeah. I'll definitely want to check it out. I'll download it tonight. So how would people can download it online? Do you have like a code or anything that people can use?
Yeah, we could give you a code if you want.
Give me a code?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We'll get you a code. We'll post
throw
a
it
code
up on there.
And then the users just download the app. They follow what they're doing. Workout templates, diet templates, basically everything.
So on the app, it's diet. It's the RP diet app.
Okay.
But we sell like training templates on the side. You obviously won't need a diet template if you have the app,
right?
Because that controls your whole diet from
right,
there.
That's everything.
Yeah.
How much is it?
Well, with your code, it'd be only $9.99 a month.
It's that cheap?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you get to ask questions? Like, is there an open forum or anything like that?
Yeah. So there's a RP clients Facebook group. You could just request to join as a private group. So you ask all the questions you want, or you could literally hit up customer service any day of the week, anytime. They're usually really quick with answering any questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun following your progress. I know we just refollowed you, but we were following you for a while. From powerlifter to bodybuilder, and because you were so strong, you intrigued me when you made the switch over to bodybuilding. If people want to continue to follow you and your progress and your 1,200 carb days and all that good stuff, what's the best place to follow you, and what's your handles?
Follow me on @Charlton Banks. Charlton_Banks. If you're Philly, you know the reference. Yeah. And then for RP, it's @RP Strength.
Cool. Yeah. Guys, follow Charlie. He's a great follow. He's crazy strong. He's doing all kinds of crazy bodybuilding stuff. So thanks for joining us.